Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and a warm welcome to everyone to this second session of New Skills for Life. But before I go any further, I would like to take a few minutes to give a brief on the Southeast Asia and Pacific Educators Forum, or CPEF. Yeah? It is formed by the Southeast Asia and Fiji leads or liaison officers of Childhood Education International. Now, this bonding together of childhood educators is to unite and gather educators from various countries to share their ideas, best practices, and holistic strategies, and to support the ever-changing approaches in childhood education. And I would like to take this opportunity also to read a little bit from CEI's article. Educators are innovators, because we're talking about innovative skills. So I thought this was quite interesting. A short one. Innovation is exciting and transformative. It builds upon or improves something that already exists, which can be approached or a strategy, a device, or even a product. When we innovate in education, we are reimagining education today by improving and transforming various components of education to meet the needs of the tomorrow. And something a little bit more, innovation in teaching. Yeah, we're talking about teaching and learning. So innovation in teaching, simply put, is using invention and creativity. It is teachers continuing to improve current methods and discover better ways to deliver content knowledge to children, expand children's skills, and ensure that children always get the very best learning experiences wherever that learning takes place. And with that, I will hand the floor, so to speak, to you both, Esther and Mark Anthony. Maybe, shall I say, Dr. Mark Anthony from the Philippines. Would you like to introduce yourself and carry on with the, start
Oh,
with the intro first.
all right. Good evening, everyone. Nice to meet all of you here. And I hope everyone is safe in their homes or in whatever place you are in right now. All of you are doing fine. I am again Mark Anthony Abinir. I am from the Philippines. I belong to the Development Studies program of the Ateneo de Manila University. And part of what I'm going to share to you tonight is my experience as an educator among the youth setting. So when I talk about the youth, mostly those coming from high school up until college, and how educators in the Philippines are addressing the concerns to distill an educator for young individuals who are not able to go to school because of the pandemic. Okay, so could I share my screen right now? All right, so I would just like to share my screen. It says here disabled screen sharing.
Now you can share. Now you
Now
can
I
share
can
now.
share. All right. Okay. Thank you for that. Let me just trying to share. Oh, there you are. Okay. Are you able to see my screen? Okay. So there are three parts to this presentation. So I will show first the first part because we will do this piece by piece, and Esther would be showing her presentation too. So the first one is trying to understand in the context of the Philippines, the effect of the new normal to teaching and learning. And when we talk about the new normal, basically, I believe this is shared among different countries. That is the mandatory wearing of the mask, especially when we go outside our respective homes. We need to be wearing masks. Second one is a reminder for everyone not to touch their face, especially when they are outside and touching other things. So we need to avoid touching our face, our eyes, our nose, our mouth. Third is to keep our distance. And I believe when we keep our distance, we mean by keeping physical distance or having a safe distance from one another. Not really becoming socially distant, because social distance means socially isolating yourself, but more on physically distancing yourself from others so that you won't infect and you won't get infected. The fourth one is the mandatory call of the government. If you have no official business outside, you must stay at home and always wash your hands and always bear in mind to sanitize, especially when you are coming from outside the home. When you go inside your home, you need to be able to properly sanitize your surroundings and yourself too. So the main message here in the new normal is we need to take extra precaution to stay safe, not only for ourselves, but also for the benefit of other people. Now, what is the impact to this one in terms of education? In the Philippine context, it is the primary concern is learning should not stop because knowledge is power. And students must be given the opportunity to be able to study, even though that we need to observe a lot of limitations. So because of that, many educators had to study what to do. And there are many experiences in the past that would give us an understanding that how are we going to make this possible? How are we going to be able to be effective educators to our students? And we learn by looking at the literature at the same time by sharing with our peers, brainstorming that what we need to do to be able to address the situation. Still, the main importance is to see our students in class, but not anymore in terms of seeing them in the physical classroom, but maximizing the use of the internet to hold virtual classes. And we have already an acronym for that. What are you doing? I'm doing WFH, which means working from home. And teachers, educators, and students are also expected to be learning at home. Video chat is there. And the good thing about this transition to online education is that even though that we are physically distant, we get more connected virtually. We're able to meet, we're able to converse with one another. Physical distance does not anymore serve as a barrier. And through the internet and through the use of different video applications such as Zoom, Google Meet, and a lot of their of choices, we're able to meet each other and converse with one another. Just like this one, even though I am coming from the Philippines, my geographical location does not serve as a barrier to be able to reach out to all of you. So the main message is, in spite of the pandemic, we need to have children, we need to have young individuals to still stay in school. It may not be the campus, the physical campus, but the school that we get to meet online. So that is the first part of my presentation.
Thank you. So just to recap, yeah, just a bit more that we talk about social or distancing, that the most important point to remember is to take extra precaution in whatever we do. Yeah. And the
Yes,
sanitizer
yes.
hands, these are things that we usually never ever do, but now that is the new normal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have to be very mindful of those
Right.
things.
So that we can stay safe, and also to help children in as many ways as possible. And I can see very interesting ones like the internet, working from home, yeah, where we can
Yeah.
still reach out to our preschoolers. And with that, I will now ask Esther to please come and join us and share with us on the first part of the question is like, what are your perspectives on the new measures that have been put in place for safe distancing and hygiene in our teaching and learning practice? Thanks, Esther.
Hi. Thanks, Masako. Yeah. Hi, good evening, and salam sejahtera. Well, this is Esther Young. Greetings from Malaysia. I'm actually currently the senior center manager for the group of kindergartens in Malaysia called Real Kids. In case you want to know what does Real Kids stand for,
Yes, that's right.
Real Kids REAL actually stand for Result Enhancing Through Active Learning, meaning we actually aims to bring about enhancing results through active learning among the children. Well, personally, I have been involved with early childhood education for the past 30 years. I was the pioneering member responsible for setting up the Real Kids groups of preschool way back in 1992. Currently, we have about close to 38 centers. Throughout the past 30 years, I must say that I have a very good opportunity to be involved with various aspects of early childhood education, such as setting up and managing the preschool centers, overseeing the operations of a group of preschool centers, and also developing the preschool curriculum as well as training our teachers. Now, indeed, all these involvements have very much enriched my early childhood education profession in the past years. So this evening, I do hope to have some fruitful sharing session with all of you, especially so when I will be sharing on when and how and what are all those new measures that we have been implemented in our preschool centers, which is very much, the kindergartens. Okay, probably many of our kindergartens in Malaysia will go on the same practices because it is also in accordance with our SOPs, standard operation procedures. All right, let me share my screen with you all too. All right. Okay, give me a minute. Right. Okay, this shall be my sharing today. All right. Before I share on the new measures that we have put in place in our preschool centers, let me give you a little bit of the background which leads to the implementation of all these new measures. In fact, as the lockdown is in Malaysia, the preschool were allowed to reopen on the 1st of July 2020. That was about 2 months ago. Okay, while the child care centers were allowed an earlier date of reopening, which was on the 4th of May 2020. And of course, prior to that, the Department of Social Welfare and Ministry of Health has actually provided a set of guidelines in collaborations with various ECC NGOs for all the childcare centers in Malaysia with regards to the operational procedures and various aspects of preparations required, such as cleanliness, hygiene, social or physical distancing, as Dr. Mark has mentioned, and also the planning of the new learning activities. And also basing on all these sets of guidelines or SOP, developed for our childcare centers, the Ministry of Health and has further collaborated with the Ministry of Education to come up with a set of guidelines on reopening of preschools for the preschool in our country, Malaysia. This is the set. For your information, in Malaysia, preschools are actually under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Education, while childcare centers are under the jurisdiction of the Department of Social Welfare. As for Real Kids, we also have done our part for the preparation of reopening. Way back about 1 to 2 weeks prior to the reopening of the preschool centers, the management of ours have actually come up with a set of guidelines for all our 38 centers, known as the post-MCO COVID-19 safety protocols for Real Kids. It is actually a complete and comprehensive set of protocols prepared for all the Real Kids centers in consultation with the medical team from Columbia Asia Hospital. And of course, it is in adherence to the guidelines set by our Ministry of Education and also the Ministry of Health. This set of safety protocol covers all aspects of the center preparations required and the operational procedures which are relevant, of course, to the Real Kids preschool group. And in fact, training sessions were conducted for all the staffs on the stipulated protocols prior to the preparations of the reopening, such as the responsibility of the staff and the parents, whereby all staff and parents are to fill out the health declaration form prior to coming back to the school. And of course, information on COVID-19 were all very well documented in order to enable our staff, the teachers, to provide explanation to parents and children with regards to COVID-19. This protocol actually also cover all the procedures on cleaning and disinfecting all the classroom and premises of the respective centers. This also includes the teaching and learning materials such as toys, furniture, utensils, and all the equipment that children will be using in their learning processes. And of course, our staff are also trained on planning and setting up the classroom or learning areas with the safe distancing in place, and also definitely has to be in adherence to our protocol. Among the various or numerous new measures that we have implemented at our centers, I will be sharing on these 7 measures. Firstly, the daily symptoms screening procedures, which are very common to all our preschool or kindergartens. Secondly, talk about the infographics or poster that we have to put out in our centers in order to educate our children on the use of masks, hand sanitizing, and hand washing techniques. Also, the new norms and the new practices that we have implemented in all our kindergartens. Also, how the physical classroom and learning areas were set up, with the safe distancing policy in place. I'll be using the term safe distancing because I feel that it is actually very appropriate. Also, they are also about some of the new routines that we specially practice in our preschool center. Next, I also will share on a little bit about how learning activities and lessons have been redesigned in order to, suit the social distancing policy. Lastly, I will share a little bit on the innovative teaching and learning methods employed at our system, at our center. Okay, so let's look at the daily screening procedures that we have in our center for all our staff and children. Of course, upon the arrival of a kid, we will have this temperature screening done by the teacher, and all the teachers are required to, record the temperature. Firstly, they will write it on the, the palm or the hand of the child, and then when they walk into the classroom, the teacher will quickly record into their register. And of course, followed by sanitizing of the external clothing and shoes. We only sanitize external clothing and shoes, nothing on the skin or the arms or the face. Followed next by the sanitizing of hands, okay, and the, I can't see this. changing, the children will basically change into their sandals because we practice the wearing of sandals in our preschool. And finally, after all this is done, then they will walk up to their classroom, and you can see here that there are all the marks and signages on the steps and even on the floor to guide the children so that they will walk with social or safe distancing in place, and they will walk up their classroom. And of course, throughout the whole screening procedure, we want to ensure that safe distancing is observed. Here, whenever children when they arrive at the center, they will actually queue up in accordance to the markings on the floor so that they are ensured of keeping a distance away from one another, including the teachers. And also you can see that all teachers and the children are already wearing their masks at this moment. Well, let's say we find children with temperature either at or above 37.5 degrees C, then firstly, they will not be allowed entry into the school. Now, of course, in case the temperature rises only during school hours after they have entered the school, then parents will be informed immediately. And while waiting for his or her parents to come, the child will be taken to a sick bay or a special assigned area. Next, and for the infographic, the second thing, the infographic poster good hygiene practices and such as the proper use of masks, hand sanitization, and hand washing techniques. We actually display them at all the, around all the premises, which are actually where the children are coming in contact with. Okay, you can see all so that as children even walk up the steps, they will be reminded of these steps, how to wash their hands, and so on. And of course, Real Kids actually come up with this good hygiene practices poster for all our centers in order for the teachers to use to educate the children about, what are the good practices that they should practice, and then also, of course, this will help them to prevent the diseases. Some of the new norms and practices which are, very common nowadays to all, even in Philippines, is like, face shields or masks, which are required for all children and teachers when they are in school. In fact, our Real Kids group actually provides the face shields for teachers and the children. And for the teachers, in fact, we provided also the mask as well, so that teachers can put on the face shield and the mask, double security, double safety when they are actually approaching the children. And of course, if children choose to put face shield with a hat, it is fine. Okay, so we allow that. The second thing is that how do we do the safe distancing from one another? This is by the way that we arrange the tables and the seating arrangement, whereby special markings are put on the table to ensure that at each table we do not have more than 3 children, and also ensure that they actually have the 3 feet distance away from one another. And even while queuing up to wash their hands or go to the toilet, you can see here that the children will actually have special marking on the floor, and then they will follow and queue with distance between them. And of course, while they have, even when they have any activities outside the classroom, in the open area or even in the hall, again, social distancing, or we call the safe distancing, is actually being implemented. And the next one is, of course, the very, very common washing of hands, frequently, where children, are reminded time and again just to make sure that they wash their hands, and we actually provide hand soap for the children instead of sanitizer all the while. In terms of the classroom setup, somebody was asking, how do we actually make sure that children are, keeping a distance in the classroom? This is some of the ways that we have done with the arrangement. For example, they can be individual sitting like this, or if they're sitting in a group, then there will be special located seats that the children will sit on to ensure that there's this distance among them. And in fact, our teachers have been very innovative to, they handmade this partition. If, when children need to work in group, it is very interesting, and really the teachers and the staff do it, and then they will make sure that children are actually are kept safe from one another. And of course, this is how a classroom setting will be like when the lessons are on. Now, in line with the SOP, we have done something like this. Each child is given a container or basket for his own personal item like this. They don't mix. And in fact, in the class, at the back, the storage area, every individual child's item are clearly labeled. And you can see in this classroom that every individual child, they have their container or basket for their books and stationery. So this is to ensure that they don't share their books or even the stationery or the water tumbler in any way. Also, these are some of the other initiatives that our centers have put up. For example, all the display boards are covered with plastic, to avoid any dust and so on. And this is also something very innovative done by our teachers. They get these cartons in order to turn it into water tumbler storage equipment. And some of our centers, the teachers are so creative that they actually create very interesting barricades for safe distancing while children actually queue for the toilet or washing their hands. And as I mentioned just now, the table partitions are handmade by the staff. Some of these new routines, that we actually make it a point of, during our timetable. In our timetable, we will actually set aside time for hand washing and toilet. That means the children will, at certain stipulated hour, they will have to go out, queue and go. Every class will take their turn to go to the toilet to have their hand washed, or they need to use the toilet, they use the toilet. And meals time will be, every child is given their own individual lunch, a meal set. And this is something interesting that we are practicing in our center, which call this mask off or air condition off time. Meaning, as during in the day, maybe during certain hour, that there is a time gazetted for all the classroom to switch off the aircon, and then they will open up the doors for the air to come in, so that the classroom is not always under the aircon, but they have fresh air coming in. They will open up the windows during this time. And here you also can see that the children are given some time off, some time to take off their mask, because I must tell you that it is actually very challenging for children to put on their mask throughout the day. It's not an easy thing, and I'm sure the adults can also agree with that.
The same, yes.
And of course, with that new policies and new SOP, we got to redesign many of our learning activities. For example, music and movement got to be done outside this open area instead of inside the classroom now, and also probably some of the gym and physical activities that they will have to do it in a different form. Okay, and now look at children, how they do their activities, writing activities. So it is now done in this manner. It's not like before, that in a big group, then they just share with one another and probably chit chat and so on. This is how our children do their activities. Of course, I think touching on the innovative teaching and learning practices during and after MCO. MCO is actually the lockdown, that the term that we use for lockdown in Malaysia. And in fact, we found that our teachers suddenly become very technological savvy, and they begin to use many different gadgets to help them deliver the lesson. And of course, some of them will use iPad, even Chromebook or personal laptop, and of course, this new way of teaching really is something what we know as remote learning approach, whereby a lot of video lessons are being employed now, and of course, teachers go on virtual lessons like this. Okay, they use Zoom maybe, and instead of the conventional worksheets, now teachers turn to Google Form worksheets, so that while children are at home, or maybe during the virtual session, children actually are able to also take part in the activities by using Google Form worksheets, okay? And of course, just now was mentioned the usage of electronic gadgets. Now the teachers have now become an expert in this. And also, we are very glad to notice that our teachers have learned to use digital platforms such as Zoom, Google Hangout, Teams. These are the three common ones that we are using for teacher to conduct um, the virtual lessons. And in fact, during the lockdown, our teachers have used this platform to engage and to connect and communicate with the children. And we still remember that our children, when they were first being connected during the MCO time, there's about like 1 month after they were not able to see their friends, when they were connected, through this Zoom platform, they were so happy to see their friends, and they in fact shout and send all the flying kisses through here. Very interesting. Okay, and now coming back after this lockdown, and this is what happened lately in our classroom, whereby now you can see that the teachers have to be, of course, in all the shoes as well. And she's now conducting lessons, which actually physical lessons for those children in the classroom. At the same time, she's actually also conducting some virtual lessons for those children who have yet to return to school, but they are learning from home. So this is a blended learning approach that we are using in our kindergarten. And of course, shifting to new modes of teaching is the way forward. We all know that this pandemic has compelled for the change of teaching and learning modes from physical learning to remote learning. And our teachers will all have to look for the immediate solutions, the tools, whatever tools they can think about, the apps that they can learn, and the software that they can go online to search, to so that they are able to teach their children via this remote approach. And of course, we need to train our teachers the necessary technology skills to make sure that remote teaching is possible through all these digital platforms such as Zoom, Google Hangout, or Teams. And we also find our teachers begin to visit various websites, in order to search for the latest teaching resources or materials. And they also learn to download teaching resources from from YouTube and other platforms, so that they can do some video recordings and can bring those lessons into the classroom. So indeed, it is very encouraging to see that our teachers are moving forward and adapting very quickly to the change. Now, in conclusion, maybe I just say that the recent pandemic, of course, of this COVID-19 is undeniably one of the most severe crises which are faced by many countries around the world. And it definitely has changed the way of life for this 21st century. In particularly so, we see that in the teaching and learning that is supposed to be done in the classroom. In the past, they normally start off with and end off with the school bells, but now this whole system is undergoing tremendous changes. The pandemic definitely has demonstrated to us that learning is now beyond the classroom, and it has to be really supported by the technology. And our teachers also now need to shift to new modes of teaching, and they also need to learn to draw learning resources from various websites. And therefore, our teachers definitely need to develop all the necessary technology skills to enable themselves to do all those things. For the children, we see that they need to really learn to embrace and adapt to the new norms and the new modes of learning, and also that they have to get used to the different way of learning, and even the different ways of socializing with their friends as compared to before. To our parents, we feel that we need them to be partners with our centers, so that they can provide all the support and guidance for their children during the remote, especially during those remote and virtual lessons that we conduct while they are at home. So this will end the sharing of those new measures that we practicing at our Real Kids Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. I think that was very, very interesting and full of information, especially having your students, pose and you took photos and show us. So everybody will be very aware of what's happening, yeah, rather than just trying to imagine and looking at the things that you are, the new normal that you are practicing. It doesn't show that you or that Philippines or Malaysia is so far apart that we don't know, we're not doing the same things. But if you look at it, it's exactly the same things, yeah? Practicing the safe distancing, washing of hands, sanitizing, yeah? And the only thing is, my question is, if the school, it doesn't have such a big compound or such a big classroom, then how do they cater for so many?
Mm.
Do they still do sessions, or how do you go about that?
Okay. In fact, I think many centers, which that we have known of, many preschool or many kindergartens, they actually really have been very creative and innovative in finding whatever space they can use. Now, of course, before that, maybe some of them will have things like any rooms like library, or they may have a gym area, but they turn all those rooms or all those space into learning areas. In fact, outside, that means the external, outside the classroom, you may have some space, even near the playground. So whatever space that can be used, even like for our kindergartens, some of our teachers do practice that. But bearing in mind, importantly, is that they must make sure that the children are wearing their mask, and that social distancing or the safe distancing is being practiced. I think importantly, they have to make sure that this few basic things, like what has been practiced even in Philippines, the mask, the distance, and then and after that they wash their hands. I think as long as all the fundamental steps has been adhered to, whatever space you actually can use them.
I guess on the side of the Philippines, the difference in Malaysia is based on the presentation of Dr. Esther, is that students are still able to meet, given proper protocols. But here in the Philippines, all forms of face-to-face interaction are suspended for the rest of the year.
Oh.
And the government is planning to resume face-to-face classes, if it would be possible, by January next year. But up until December, we are not allowed to meet our students in class. So that's the main difference.
Oh dear, I see. Yeah, but we were allowed to have this face-to-face started in 1st July 2020, as what I mentioned earlier.
Yeah,
so
that's
we
good.
are
That's
more
good for
blessed,
you.
I guess. Yeah.
But I see that you have taken a lot of time and effort to draw up all the protocol, the standard procedures with the teachers coming in. So they must have taken a lot of time to prepare before the students can come in.
Yeah, it took us about 2 weeks to sit down together as a team, and then basing on all the SOPs that has been prepared for the childcare centers earlier. So I think that one helped a lot. So we actually have all those resources to help us. And also, I think the plus point is that we have this medical team from Columbia Asia Hospital that come on board and provide all the advice that we need to have in order to ensure that health and the safety part is put in place.
Yes, that's very good. So looks like Philippines, the students will only go back more or less like after a year, right?
Yeah, after a year.
Yeah.
Okay. And because of that, there are a lot of challenges that many Filipino students are facing right now. And I would like to share those challenges, at the same time, what the schools are doing to be able to address those challenges. So as we would see here, challenges to teaching and learning practice. So both sides are having those challenges, from the students and from the faculty. So first is the anxiety due to the pandemic. And we all know that in Southeast Asia, the Philippines is number one in terms of the number of infection rates among Southeast Asian neighbors. And every day the number is increasing. So it is creating a lot of anxiety for students and faculty. And those anxieties might be because of health, because also of the country is also in official recession right now. So there are a lot of Filipinos, parents who lost their jobs because of the pandemic. That is the overall problem. And because face-to-face classes are not allowed, challenges of home is not a conducive place for learning, and home is not a conducive place for teaching on the side of the faculty, especially for students who only have a small home to begin with. They have no area in the house where they could study well, maybe because they have other family members who are also working at home and studying at home. So space is an issue. And also for teachers, who have their own respective families, where what place in the home they're going to teach when they need to take care of their children, the dog is barking, a lot of distraction happening inside the home. So it becomes a challenge. Stress due to study load plus mental health issues of the students. And also the faculty are stressed, and they need to devote long hours to prepare for modules because if everything would be, there are many strategies. Remote education, meaning printed modules will be given to the students for those who don't have internet access, for those who have online. Still, teachers will need to prepare online modules. And modules are good, but at the same time, you need to complete all of them. And it's really taking a toll to teachers to be able to finish all the modules needed for the entire year. And of course, the problem of some students do not have the needed device to be able to study through distance education or through online education. And some faculty are not familiar with the use of those devices. So they need to retool and learn on how to use applications and how to be able to maximize the use of learning management systems such as Canvas, Blackboards, and other means to be able to communicate with the students. Also, in the Philippines, we have a problem with bandwidth. There is a bandwidth cap per month or per day. For example, 1 gigabyte only per day. And once you are able to consume that, you cannot anymore connect. You need to buy another load because of that. And in a family setting, a lot of people will be using the internet and it will be eating up the bandwidth. So that is a problem. Intermittent and slow internet connection and service downtime. Structurally, the whole Philippines have a problem with internet connection. And of course, the socioeconomic status of the students must also be factored in. Especially, are they able to buy computers? Are they able to pay for the internet services? When I say not really the students, but their parents, because of the socioeconomic status. And because also of the pandemic, it's giving a lot of problem to teachers themselves regarding their employment. Are they going to be retrenched because the school cannot anymore keep up because many students are not anymore enrolling, especially for private schools. Many students now are transferring to public schools. And the problem with the public schools is that they need to handle a lot of students. But on private schools, they are losing students. So I have met teachers who have lost their jobs, and I have met teachers that they have to be paid 50% of their salaries per month. And that is causing a lot of anxieties. And also geographic location. Lockdown was imposed in the Philippines sometime second week or third week of March. And there many of the students and many of the faculty went back to their home provinces to be with their families. And some of them cannot go back to the cities because of protocol measures in terms of travel. So many students, they want to study, but they are in a geographical area which is very remote, or there is weak internet connection. So it's they find themselves to have a hard time to be able to go back to classes, even though if it is a virtual class. So those are the challenges. Now, there are efforts to move the classes. It's supposed to be classes should have started majority by June and July, but it has been moved to other September, especially for universities. For grade school, it was moved to October, to allow teachers again to prepare for the modules and what to do for students who have no access online. So what are so far the innovative or tried and tested practices to overcome these challenges? And first, it is very important to acknowledge that it is okay not to be okay because of the anxiety people are experiencing. When students, when faculty are feeling stressed, we need to acknowledge that. And at the same time, we do not add to the problem, but also model on staying healthy, being helpful, and staying calm, so that we do not aggravate the anxiety being experienced by people. But we need to acknowledge that. So when students express to teachers that they're having a hard time, teachers must extend their compassion to their students and look for ways on how to be able to address the problem and to help the students to be able to learn, because that is the main focus. And of course, the importance of praying for one another, for the safety of one another. And whether you are atheist or not, I believe praying is a concern that you care for the safety of other people and you think about them. So that is the foundation. We do not forget that we are in a pandemic. Therefore, we don't need to go back to the mode that we become very strict to our students and have expectations, because this is the overarching problem. Now, I was going to share to you our experience in the Ateneo on how we're able to and how we are addressing the problem that I've shared a while ago. So 5 principles of adaptive design for learning. So the first principle is adaptability in terms of design and delivery. Second one is the principle of active and interactive learning. Third one, because the predominant mode of learning now is online learning, we must become aware of the 3 C's of learning. And the discourse between asynchronous, meaning it is not live teaching, but more on students learning on their own, versus synchronous sessions. The problem with synchronous sessions, because bandwidth is very limited in the Philippines, we need to limit those synchronous sessions and to be able to deliver lessons in terms of modules. So when we talk about adaptability here, we need to be able to understand the context of the students, their socioeconomic status. And always the automatic mode is the preferential option for those who are marginalized. So when we design lessons, how are we going to reach out to marginalized students? So that is the main goal. So when we design, we need to think, how can this be accessed? And we need to be able to design lessons, online lessons that only consume a low bandwidth, so that it will not eat up the bandwidth of families who are sharing the internet. And to prepare learning packages, either in thumb drives or hard copies. For example, if students would have an internet access, these thumb drives will be given to them if they have a computer, so that they could just plug it in and still be able to learn. Or if they don't have a computer, then have a prepared copy of printed materials for students to be able to go and learn, but this would require the help also of the parents and also the community where the students belong to. So that is in terms of the principle of adaptability. The second one is the importance
Um,
of
yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. Look,
yes.
your time is flying so fast, and there's so much to get from you.
Okay.
Yeah. So looks like you have to summarize, and then at the same time, just give us at least like what highlight. Yeah, one or two innovative practices that would be very fruitful for all our educators. Could you
Yes.
start here?
Thank you for that. So I think
Some-
the primary goal is for example in the Philippines to be able to adapt to the needs of the students and always try to understand where the students are coming from and what do we it will take a lot of preparation for the teachers as well. We need to prepare online, we need to prepare offline, we need to be able to produce printed materials, we need to be able to transfer those materials into thumb drives or flash drives so that you could give those to students, for them to be able to continue to learn, because the overarching concern is learning must not stop even in the time of the pandemic. Now, to be able to, if I am going to summarize the main approach here is teachers are expected to give their all to the students. When we mean by giving their all, it is attend to them in a safe space. If they have concerns, have official consultation periods where students could meet up with you online and to discuss their problems. Listen to their stories because this is very new to them. They are used to be connected with people, but now they are at home and they have a lot of energy and they need someone to listen to them and link them to support in terms of guidance counseling or whatever support services the school has or the government has to help the students to connect to proper help that they need. In the Ateneo, we call this cura personalis, or the care for the entire person. Learning is important, but also the individual is also important. It's not all about learning objectives. Oh, at this point of time, you must have learned about this module. No, it's about, are you learning? Are you okay? And are we okay to proceed? For you to be able to grow and learn more. So that is the main concern.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And now, Esther, would you like to continue and finish off with your conclusion, please?
Yeah, maybe because of time, I think we only have about a few minutes more left, right? Okay.
Yes.
Instead of sharing the impact on what to call that these new measures in our centers, I think I can just quickly run through and then end with one. I will share screen again. All right, for the last.
Great.
Okay. I think I'm sharing this. Can you? Okay. Can we see this? Oh. Okay. Can you see this? Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Not coming in yet.
Oh, not coming in. Okay, quick one. I thought I just share this impact. Impact is because this is actually very relevant to all of us. Those of us in Malaysia, who are actually operating preschool and kindergartens. Okay, we say that the one of the greatest impact of the requirement of putting these new measures in our center is that our center capacity has been affected.
Yeah.
Firstly, because of the social distancing and the physical distancing or the safe distancing, our student numbers have to be reduced by 40 to 50%. It's because, for example, a class usually takes about or accommodates about 20 students, but now can only accommodate to about 10 or 12. That's the most. So as a result, our center's capacities and student numbers are actually affected. Okay, and I think to all of us who are actually operators or in the industry of preschool, definitely we noticed that there is actually a higher operational cost has been incurred because we have to, sustain the new measures such as you have to make sure that you have this long-term purchase of the sanitizer, the disinfectant, and other cleaning agents, as well as you also have to make sure that you create additional storage devices to ensure that the distance is always kept there. And of course, manpower wise, we definitely need more teachers or staff to help us to ensure the smooth implementation of all the new measures because we're dealing with young children. We still have to guide them a lot and assist them so that they can embrace all those new norms. It's not easy for them to, to remember to put on their mask always, and you've got to help them, help to remind them. And sometimes after too long a time putting on the mask, you've got to help them to also have this mask off time so that they can actually, have some comfort. And of course, we all the centers, all the preschool or kindergartens in Malaysia got to readjust our daily routines so that we can allow more times for the teachers and the children to go through all the new practices, all the new norms, and so on. One last thing is that we realized that after this whole, this whole post MCO or lockdown, the learning in the centers will require more technological support, and especially those electronic gadgets, need to be really provided by the centers in order to support the blended learning in the centers. I'm sure Masako will know that in our preschool, not many centers can afford to have iPads or Chromebooks and so on. But now there's not a choice. They will somehow have to provide some kind of Chromebooks or iPads. Maybe in very small number. At least the centers can have all these gadgets to kind of like support blended learning. Of course, I'm speaking all this basically for those urban preschool. Of course, in the rural areas, we got to look at their challenges and address those challenges through a different means and modes. All right, so this is what I'm going to share. Maybe just maybe something to share with Dr. Mark that maybe for the Philippines government and later on when the school, before the school can be allowed to open, I like to share this practice that we have done in our preschool, center that has helped the children and the staff a lot. That is to have a program called Back to School program, maybe about 1 or 2 weeks prior to the reopening of the school, so that like teachers can use best like if they can use this platform, remote learning platforms like Zoom or Google Hangout or wherever, they can actually have some daily routine over the whole week, about maybe half an hour a day, just to help children to prepare them mentally and psychologically, to embrace the new norms and the new practices which are awaiting them at the center when they go back to the school, such as, of course, wearing of masks, at most of the time, and then, washing of hands and even keeping a distance away from their friends. No, don't hug, but, use a different way to greet their friends. Maybe like we used to teach our children to put our hand on our hearts and then say, hi, good morning, I love you, that kind of thing, So I think it is
I was
important.
able to. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much. Looks like there's so much to learn from you,
Yeah.
to share with everybody. That there's so much. I really didn't want to stop you both, but because time is catching up, and I've been reminded that time is there. We have to stop soon. So with that, whatever it is, I think for all our viewers out there, you can always go into our Facebook Live again. There'll be repeat sessions where you can go through, and then maybe if you want to get in touch with Esther or Mark, I'm sure they will be ever willing to share with the experiences, because what you both have given is so true and so relevant to show that we may be in different parts of the world, but we are still connected in the sense that we still observe the same standard procedures. Yeah. And with that,
Yes.
I would like to say thank you very much to both of you. And we had a wonderful time sharing that I did feel like I want to stop you both because there's so much more to ask. Anyway, and thank you, thank you, thank you. And of course, not to forget Derek Ho, who is behind the scene, who is that technological support that we mentioned, right? We need that, and so true. And so I would like to say thank you to Derek. Thank you to Christine, who is doing the webinar and thanking us, I think coordinating all the questions that are being put forth. Christine is out there, though we don't see you, the people behind the scene. Yeah. And before I forget, I would like to invite everybody else to come and join us in our next session next week, same time, but with different speakers with interesting topics. Yeah. It comes into like family and teacher collaboration. That will be something to look forward to. So I hope with that, we'd like to say thank you again. God bless you all. And may God bless our children too, our teachers, the educators, the innovators. Yeah. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.